What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? And today we're going to be talking about Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. And one thing in particular I would really like to put in here real quick is in fact that this is the first game I've ever played in the Stalker series, amongst like another game called Chernobyl, which very plays similar to this game. But however, I think the first thing I initially came to understand while playing this game for the very first time on console rather than this game series was exclusive of PC. But of course, this game is rather unique. And one of the greatest things I really appreciate when it comes to this type of game that is brought to the console universe rather than just being on a PC generation is that this game is really cool. I'm actually thoroughly really enjoying this game quite a bit, really, and it's so unique because of the fact that there are factions involved, there's exploration involved, there's some survival mechanics involved, and there's a lot of backtracking actually. But I think that's where the repetition lies when it comes to any kind of games in general. But overall, I think when it comes to this Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, it's so cool. And the reason why I like it so much, other than it being not just an open world sandbox FPS survival game, it's because it's a first person shooter. And as I've always previously mentioned, many many other videos, is that first person shooters have always been my all time favorite genre of all time. Other than like Assassin's Creed, the third person action adventure type of games, or like Uncharted or any other type of games in that type of genre. But I think when it comes to Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, I really love this game in so many ways because it's not just because it's dark, it's brooding, it's very interesting and intricate design. The running is a little bit tedious because there is stamina involved, and it also has to do with you have to you have to really do a good surmountable of inventory management in order to have better stamina, so that way you can be able to run as much as you can without ever trying to deplete your stamina bar. And then I think that's one of the core mechanics that this game really utilizes to its extent. But however, I think that's where this game really falls under line as to why I think that this game is so cool and unique as well. And what I will say though too is that I know why that these games are highly popular on the PC platform or on the PC market, because a lot of people are or really love this series, and it's because of the uniqueness of this game. It's because of the mechanics of it all. And I do like the structure of the whole entire game and the way how it's just, how it's streamlined to a certain degree. While I do agree that the game can be a little janky because this is a PlayStation port and an Xbox port or a PC port. But however, the reason why they redefined this series to the consoles is because this series was actually eventually shadow dropped recently. I don't know how long ago it was, but I think it was like a couple of weeks ago of this month. But what I will say is that this game, it's so good. It really is. I really love the implications that this game really sets its tone and towards the add-ons that these games are able to provide. Being able from going one story from Shadow of Chernobyl to, I believe it's called a Pripyat, or I think that might be the last one, and I forgot what the other one was, but you get where I'm going with this, and so that's what I'm saying. I think when it comes to this game, other than it being a first-person shooter, it's the fact that this game really pertains and underlines itself as to where the story is going to unfold. The story unfolds through side quests, it unfolds through and the story itself, and that's what's so cool about it. So I've done talking about a little bit of the story mechanics of this game and the structure of the game as well. But what I really want to talk about is I really love the way how this game really utilizes a function system. And what I mean by that, the function of this system of this game, not just being another core mechanic of this game series as a whole, or as Shadow of Chernobyl, it's a survival game. I normally don't play survival games, but I think that's where Shadow of Chernobyl does a really good job with it. I really like the way how you have to utilize the systems of circumventing the inventory space, and like I previously mentioned, how you're going to use your stamina perfectly or properly, and that's another cool mechanic. I think the mechanics in this game really, it does a good job of it doesn't really do a good job explaining itself, because I feel like that when it comes to games like this that are either old or new, they sometimes don't explain themselves, and you usually have to figure it out for yourself. But I like that, and that's what I like about this game though too, because you're always going to figure out what you want to, or how you're going to utilize your weaponry, your inventory management skill, and being able to pick stuff up and sell them to a certain type of trader, or getting rid of certain types of ingredients for certain types of side quests. And that's one thing I've really thoroughly like about this game though too, because there is a little bit of a morality system. As I previously mentioned about when it came to the Metro series, that game had they were part a little bit of survival, because there were some ways of being able to not infiltrate, that's the wrong word, but being able to survive, right? You're able to build, not build, but build certain types of materials from certain types of materials, and building them into like the air canisters for Artyom in the Metro series. And you're able to do some of that a little bit in this game, but it's interesting. And so what I'm trying to get to is that this game really does an interesting way of how to survive. You have to eat food, you have to maintain your health, you have to maintain your stamina by certain types of materials or ingredients. And I love that aspect and concept, because like I said, when we have games like No Man's Sky, or like any other games like 7 Days to Die, or any other survival games or even like Minecraft, and that's where there's a lot of that involved in this game. You have to be careful of how you're going to really to understand how you're going to take care of your stamina and health, and vice versa. And so that's what I really like about that. But overall, I just really think that this game it's really unique. And and that's one other thing I was gonna say, is that I really like the way how it's a phone basically. It's like a PDF reader of sorts, but you're able to look at your side quests or your story quests. You're able to look at the map, and you could be able to differentiate of where you want to go. And that's where the structure of the game itself really falls under line of where you need to go, and what quests are going to be able to show where you need to go, so that way you could be able to obtain or either finish that quest where it's going to be. And that's another thing what I really like about this game. Now, I want to talk about the shooting mechanics in this game, because that's one thing I've noticed when it comes to this game. Like I said, with the jank, but it's more appropriately underlying of the game, of the shooting mechanics, to where it is a little janky, it is a little clunky, and it took a while for me to finally understand of how to really not just truncate itself, but it's to where how this game is going to, you have to really figure out how you're going to shoot, either without like aiming down the crosshairs, or just aiming without. And I had a little bit of trouble with that for quite a while, because it's like, this game is very hard to manipulate with its controls. That's one thing that this game really does have a problem with. It's the control system, by aiming down your sights, or just by, firing without aiming down your sights. And that's one thing I can definitely tell you, because this is an older game. But however, it's still a lot of fun. I really love this game, and I really can't wait to get into the DLCs. I think the DLCs are going to be very interesting of how the next one's going to be part of the main story from Shadow of Chernobyl. And that's why I think that's where this game is going to really differentiate itself from each expansion, because I know, like I said, there are two expansions to the main game itself, and that's one thing I really like when it comes to games like this. And that's normally what I really normally like about games in general, is to, when a game has expansions, there's a lot of replayability involved. And that's one thing I really want to talk about here real quick as well, as soon as I can here. But that's where I was trying to get to. So my apologies on that. Now, when it comes to the expansions, which I have never got into yet, is in fact that the expansions, as I previously mentioned, or what I previously said, those are going to offer so much replayability, because I do believe that this game series does offer a lot of replayability other than the expansions, and that's what expansions usually normally do. Or it also depends on the game or the main game itself, of how you're going to really enjoy or either like or dislike this game. But like I said, I love these types of games. I really want to get to know about these games more and more and more. And as I previously stated, that now I know why these games were highly popular. And it was the fact that they have a really deep story to them. There is some really unique character progression, and that's one thing I've always greatly appreciated when it comes to any kind of game series, or even just a standard game alone itself. When they have really good character progression, have a good story to them, I think that's the most great. I think that's the utmost important thing to have, because I really think it all has to do with the really good writing, a good sense of direction. It's the same thing with movies. It's no different. And so that's where I'm saying that's why I really like about this game so far. I would say I put in at least maybe close to 15 hours, if that. If it, I really can't remember if that's the truth or not. But point being, I just really think that I really want to see how far this game is going to go, because like I said, I haven't finished the first game in before the expansions, and so I want to see what's going to happen. But what I do know, going back to the morality system, is that, for what I understand, there's different types of endings. And I have to admit, one thing is that I have failed a couple side quests, but I feel like, I know it might be a big deal, but other than that, I'm just really trying to think of what the outcome's going to be like towards the end of the first game. And so I'm really just kind of curious of how it's going to play out. But overall, I really think that this game is still fantastic. Like, as a newcomer to this series, as a newcomer to a game like Stalker, because like I said, I played that game Chernobyl, and it's just a very interesting way of knowing what these games really are, and how they can really still hold up no matter how old they might be. And like I said, this game series is quite old, but I was thoroughly excited that this game, or this trilogy, shadow dropped on PlayStation, because I do play on Xbox, I do play on PC, and I do play on PlayStation. So I'm not any type of fanboy. But point being, you understand where I was going with that as well. So what I want to say here is that I really think, when it comes to games like this, I really would love to see games like this more and more. I would love to see first person shooters that do utilize a unique systems of survivability, being able to maintain your health and your stamina and inventory systems, much like Minecraft and 7 Days to Die or No Man's Sky, because that's another game I greatly enjoy. It's so good. And I would love to see games like this again. Like I said, I know I intend to repeat myself, but we'll just see how far things go. But overall, I just really think that this game, it's just a lot of fun. I do believe that this game does have a lot of fun factor involved, and that's one thing I really like to talk about games in general as well, other than like the mechanics of them, and being able to understand why these games sometimes work, and how they work in so many types of degrees of, you know, like the shooting mechanics, the structure of the game, the management of inventory space. I love talking about these types of mechanics because that's what makes me not just important, but that's what makes it important to me by talking about this type of stuff. And it's so much fun. And so all I can say is this: do I highly recommend playing this game series on console or on PC? Absolutely. I think that if you've never played this series before, whether if you have played them on PC or not, but I'm sure that a lot of people have played it on PC. So point being, but if you are a newcomer to this series, I do highly advise playing the first one and then going into the further into the expansions. I think, like I said, the expansions will provide that replayability much further into detail and everything of what this story of the first one and how it's going to venture through the expansions. And because, like I said, it has to do with the morality system, how the morality system is going to be involved, and how it's going to really differentiate itself by understanding where the story is going to go from the first one to the second one and to the third one, and to see what the ending is going to be like towards the end of this series. But anyways, this is Jake from Citizen JV. Thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.